The chandeliers glittered like frozen fireworks above the ballroom of the Waldorf Astoria, every crystal catching the light of Manhattan skyline. Waiters in pressed tuxedos floated across the marble floor balancing trays of champagne flutes. The annual Atlas Foundation Gala had begun, a $25,000 a plate fundraiser where the city's elite came to write oversized checks, sip vintage wine, and make promises no one intended to keep. For Ethan Cole, the 34-year-old CEO of Atlas, it was supposed to be routine. Smile for the cameras, shake hands with senators, nod through speeches about social responsibility. Tonight's gala was extra loaded. The company's IPO was only weeks away. Every movement he made would ripple through headlines and valuations. But even billionaires get restless, and Ethan Cole, in his midnight tailored suit, felt like an actor stuck in a play he hadn't auditioned for. He stood at the edge of the ballroom, sipping whiskey he didn't taste, listening to a hedge fund manager brag about a Hamptons mansion. His COO, Victoria Hale, scanned the room with her hawk's eyes, making sure Ethan didn't drift off script. That's when he saw her. She was balancing a silver tray near the back corner, weaving between clusters of sequin gowns and tuxedos. Not one of the black-tie waiters. Her uniform was a plain white blouse, sleeves rolled up, black skirt, scuffed shoes. She carried herself differently, no polished glide, but a kind of fierce efficiency. She didn't belong here, and that was the point. Their eyes met across the ballroom. For a second the crowd blurred, the chatter dimmed. Ethan froze, holding her gaze like a man recognizing something he didn't know he'd lost. She blinked, broke eye contact, and shifted her tray higher on her arm. She was Maya Rivera, 27, waitress from a small diner in Brooklyn. Tonight she wasn't supposed to be here at all. The catering company had lost 2 staff at the last minute, and Maya had picked up the shift. Extra cash meant groceries, rent, and maybe medication for her younger brother. Ethan's glass trembled slightly in his hand. He felt an unfamiliar pull, one that wasn't scripted, not scheduled, not branded. Ethan, Victoria's voice was clipped. She langed in her perfume sharp as her tone. The governor's wife wants a photo. Smile now. He let himself be dragged toward the flash of cameras, but his eyes drifted back. She was gone, swallowed by the glittering crowd. At the far edge of the ballroom, Maya stacked empty glasses on her tray, her jaw tight. She hated these events, people laughing too loud, dripping wealth like sweat, never looking waist-deaf in the eye. The glitter, the music, the forced glamour, it all felt like a show for gods she didn't believe in. She ducked behind a velvet curtain for a breath of air, checking her phone. A text from Leo, did you get home safe? She typed back quickly, still working kiddo, lock the door, I'll be late. She added a heart emoji, hesitated, then sent. Need a hand with that tray. Maya jerked her head up. Ethan stood there, not 10 feet away, his glass of whiskey gone, his bow tie slightly loosened like he was suffocating in silk. She stiffened. I got it, thanks. His voice was lower than she expected, steady but with a tired edge. You don't look like the rest of the staff. She raised an eyebrow, and you don't look like the kind of guy who hides from his own party. He almost smiled, almost taché. Maya shifted the tray. You're one of them, right? The suit's writing checks for pictures. He tilted his head. Is that how you see it? That's how it is, she shot back. They give money here to look generous. Meanwhile, my diner gets letters threatening foreclosure because some developer wants another condo tower. The words slipped out harsher than she intended. She bit her lip. Why was she spilling her frustration to a stranger? But Ethan didn't flinch. He studied her like someone starved for honesty. And yet here you are, keeping their glasses full. Maya shrugged. Rent doesn't pay itself. For a beat, silence. The murmur of the gala was muffled behind the curtain, like the two of them were suspended in a bubble outside time. Ethan said quietly, you remind me what it feels like to be real. She frowned. You talk like you've forgotten. Maybe I have. His gaze dropped to her tray, then back to her eyes. What's your name? Maya. Ethan, he offered his hand without the usual billionaire swagger, just simple. She hesitated, then shook it quickly, her fingers brushing his palm. His touch was warm, steady. From the other side of the curtain came the click of high heels. Victoria's voice, sharp, commanding. Ethan, what are you doing? Cameras are waiting. He stepped back, shoulders tightening. The mask slid back on his face. Duty calls. Maya tucked her tray closer to her chest. Go, wouldn't want to miss your close-up. Their eyes lingered 1 second longer, then he turned and walked away. By midnight the gala ended. The glitterati streamed into limousines, paparazzi flashes bouncing off their diamonds. Maya stripped off her catering badge, stuffed it in her bag, and hurried down the service corridor into the cold night air. Her feet ached, her head pounded from too much perfume, too much champagne spilled on her sleeve. She pulled her coat tight and walked toward the subway. A sleek black car idled at the curb, the tinted window lowered. Ethan sat inside, bow tie now undone, hair mussed like he'd fought the night itself. He leaned slightly out. "Can I give you a ride?" Maya stopped, heart pounding. Every instinct screamed danger. Rich men offering rides didn't come without strings. She shook her head. "I'll take the train." His voice was softer now. "Then at least take this." He held out a plain white business card. No logo, no number, just a single letter in black ink. She did not move. "It's not about money," he said quietly. "It's just sometimes strangers remind you who you are. You did that tonight." For a long second she stared at him. Finally she took the card, slipped it into her pocket without looking. The window rolled up. The car pulled away, swallowed by traffic. Maya stood on the curb, city lights flickering on her face. She exhaled, muttering to herself, "Weird night." Then she headed down the subway stairs, disappearing into the hum of the underground. Above, on the front page of tomorrow's New York Daily News, a photo would run: Ethan Cole in a tux, eyes fixed across the ballroom, not on senators, not on investors, but on a waitress with a silver tray. The bell over the door whispered when Ethan stepped into the diner. Midnight had clipped Brooklyn into quiet shapes, shuttered storefronts, a flicker of neon from the bodega across the street, a lone bus hissing steam at the corner. Inside, the diner smelled like warm sugar and coffee burned just enough to feel honest. Vinyl booths, checkered floor, chrome counter wiped clean within an inch of its life. Maya stood behind the register, stacking rolls of quarters, hair twisted into a messy knot that kept trying to escape. The white blouse from the gala shift was gone. Now it was a black t-shirt with a faded Mets logo and sleeves shoved to her elbows. The radio murmured Old Soul through a soft buzz. She looked up, startled. Recognition flashed across her face. Then she hid it behind professional neutral, counter or booth. "Counter's fine," Ethan said, sliding onto a stool. His tux was gone. He wore a gray hoodie and dark jeans, the kind of clothes that allow you to be no one. Maya poured coffee without asking, set it down with a clink. "We close in an hour." "I won't be long." He wrapped his hands around the mug like it was a small fire. "Do you always work nights?" "Most weeks." She nodded toward the kitchen pass. "We're short a cook, so I float. You want anything besides caffeine?" "What's good?" She smirked, a quick flash. "Nothing fancy. That's kind of the point." She glanced over his shoulder at the street. "You followed me." "I followed the coffee," he said deadpan, then softer, "and the conversation." She didn't smile at that one. "You're a guest like anyone else, but if you're here to tip me like a headline, don't." "I'm not." He reached for the sugar, then didn't use it. "Can I ask you something?" "You can try," she said, grabbing a towel to wipe an already clean spot. "At the gala, you looked like you wanted to be anywhere else." "That's because I did." "Where would anywhere else be?" "Home," she said, "with my brother, without the shoes that ruined my toes." "Home." He took her in carefully, the practical ponytail, the little half-moons of exhaustion under her eyes, the stubborn chin that didn't want pity. His gaze dropped when she reached for a coffee pot. A pale, jagged mark traced along the inside of her forearm, just below the elbow, a seam of old pain. "You okay?" he asked before he could stop himself. "Your arm." Maya froze, her eyes went quiet. "It's old." "How old?" "Years." She moved like she might tuck the sleeve down, then didn't. "Car accident. Rain. A driver in a hurry." "I'm sorry," Ethan said, the words landing heavier than they should. His throat felt tight, a steel band cinched by memory. She studied him the way a nurse might evaluate a pulse. "You're sorry for everything by default, or do you just practice the line at expensive events?" He accepted the jab. "Some things deserve sorry." Maya rested both palms on the counter, a small act of grounding. "My mom died that night. I walked away with this." She tapped the scar lightly as if to keep it from aching. "And a lot of bills." Silence settled like a third person on the stool beside him. The radio drifted through a chorus. In the kitchen, a timer beeped and stopped. "When?" he asked. 5 years ago." Her voice didn't creak. It was flat from being told too often in her own head. The driver didn't stop, or maybe they did and lawyers did the stopping for them. I don't know. There was a settlement offer that came with non-disclosure strings and euphemisms. We said no. It wasn't about money. Ethan stared at the coffee he wasn't drinking. The Atlas Foundation had a portfolio of old cases, charity tied to Hush. He could see his father's signature on the culture, that sheet of benevolence used like wax to seal something ugly. He felt the past lift its head. I hate that it happened to you, he said, quiet, steady. I hate that it happens at all. Me too, Maya said, but hating doesn't pay Con Ed. She straightened. So. Pie because the apple is fresh and pretending not to be. He almost laughed. Pie sounds right. She plated a slice, added a scoop of vanilla that surrendered immediately into the warm crust, and slid it to him. He took a bite. It tasted like a kitchen light at 2 a.m., like someone telling the truth without thinking there's a prize for it. Damn, he said, that's ridiculous. Thank you. The corner of her mouth tilted, proud despite herself. My mom's recipe. He set the fork down. What's her brother like? Leo, she softened instantly like the name opened a door. He's 19, funny when he wants to be. He likes ordered, drawing. He hears a train before anyone else on the platform does. She wiped a spot that didn't need it. He remembers everything except where he put his keys, which is a crime because he sketches better than half the comic artists in the city. Does he work here? Sometimes he likes the late shift because it's quieter. I like it because he can sleep then, and I can pretend the world slows down for people who need it too. Ethan nodded, absorbing the geometry of her life. The diner timed against Leo's rhythms, the math of quarters rolled and bills paid. He wanted to fix everything in a single movement. He knew that impulse was the same one that broke things. The door jingled, a pair of cops swept in for coffee to go. Maya shifted back into her choreography. Pour, lid, smile, exact change, good night. When they left, the diner felt small again, just the two of them in the hum of the fridge. Why were you hiding behind a curtain? She asked suddenly. I wasn't hiding, he said, then reconsidered. Maybe I was. It's loud in there, not the music, the performance. Of being decent in public. Of pretending to be someone who knows how. He ran a hand through his hair. I sign things, I say yes to checks. None of it feels like it touches anything. It touches the press release, she said. Which touches the share price. Exactly, he looked up at her, and then I saw you. You weren't performing, you were surviving. It felt like gravity. She blinked, surprised by the sincerity more than the compliment. Gravity pulls you down. Sometimes that's what saves you, he said, keeps you from floating away. A beat, the radio fizzed into silence as the song ended. Maya leaned her hip against the counter, fingers fidgeting with a paper straw wrapper. You ever been broke? She asked. Broke like what? Like choosing between paying rent or buying your brother a winter coat. He looked at the window, the streak of streetlight across the glass. I've never been that kind of broke. Then don't try to fix the math, she said gently, not unkind. Listen to it. I can do that. Can you? Her eyes searched his, looking for the dodge. Because most men who wear watches that shine come in here and tell me their plans for my life. What's my plan for your life? Free advice, strings attached. I don't have a plan, he said. I don't even have a string. She studied him. Finally, she nodded at the coffee pot. Refill. Yes, please. She poured. He watched the steam curl and vanish. What did your mom do? He asked. Cooked here. Maya glanced at the pass, as if expecting to see her mother's elbows. Sang along to the radio badly, burned her first 5 pies, got the 6th one right and never got it wrong again. She could make a room feel like it would forgive you. She'd be proud of you, he said. I hope so. Her voice thinned just a hair. She cleared it. We have rules here, by the way. You don't get to be special. You tip normal. You bust your plate if you're sitting alone and don't pretend it's beneath you. I can do that, he said. I'm good at dishes. It's the only chore my nanny couldn't take away from me. She snorted. You had a nanny. 2, he said deadpan. I was an exhausting child. Some things don't change, she said, but it came with a grin. Headlights slid across the booths as a car passed. The clock above the coffee urns ticked them toward closing. Maya grabbed the check, scribbled the total, slid it over. He laid cash down, enough to pay without flashing power, more than a habit, but less than insult. He stood. Do you work tomorrow? Yeah. I'll try not to make it weird, he said. You already made it weird. Then I'll make it honest, he said, meeting her eyes. She hesitated, then nodded once. Good night, Ethan. Good night, Maya. He pushed through the door into air that tasted like rain. She watched him cross the sidewalk, hands in his pockets, a man who didn't know whether to walk slow or run. When he turned the corner, she finally exhaled, pressing her palm lightly over the old scar, the way you cover a wound that's not bleeding anymore but still remembers. In the back, the kitchen light flickered. She flipped the sign to closed, wiped the counter one last time, and tucked the plain white card into the register drawer beneath the rolls of quarters. Just a single letter, just enough to start trouble. Across the river, in a glass office as black as the sky, Victoria Hale's phone lit up with a message from a private security detail. A photo attached, Ethan at a no-name diner, leaning over a counter, eyes warm in a way the market would not like. Victoria didn't smile. She saved the image, filed it in the folder she kept for leverage, and typed a reply. Got him, keep watching. The next morning broke gray and heavy over Brooklyn. Rain clung to the diner windows like fingerprints. Inside, Maya was hunched over the register, calculator in one hand, stack of overdue bills in the other. The smell of burnt toast drifted from the kitchen, but her mind was locked on numbers that didn't add up. The bell over the door jingled. It was Ethan. Just Samir Patel, the branch manager from the neighborhood bank. His suit was too tight, tie askew, umbrella dripping. He gave her a weary smile that didn't reach his eyes. Maya, he said, setting down a folder. You know why I'm here. She said, you want me to sign another extension. He shook his head. I can't, not this time. The mortgage on the diner, it's officially been bought out. New holder effective today. Her brow furrowed. Bought out by who? He shrugged. Shell Corporation. Happens all the time. Could be a developer, could be an investor who sees potential. Either way, it means you're safe for now. They covered the arrears. Maya's stomach twisted. Safe for now. It felt less like mercy, more like a lease she couldn't see. And if they want to flip the property, then you'll know soon enough. Samir closed the folder, almost apologetic. Look, Maya, you're one of the few people in this neighborhood who still tries. I hate being the guy with bad news. But whoever bought this place, they have money. They don't buy diners for nostalgia. After he left, Maya stared at the rain sliding down the window. The diner felt smaller, walls closer, as though someone else had slipped inside without opening the door. Across the river in Manhattan, Ethan leaned over a laptop in his penthouse office, watching the digital transfer complete. Riverside Holdings LLC now owned the diner's mortgage, a neat transaction buried under layers of shell companies. No trace back to Atlas, no trace back to him.
Rubbing his temples. He told himself it was simple. He wasn't rescuing Maya, he was protecting her. Just a safety net she'd never need to know. Victoria Hale's voice cut through the room. You really think you can play savior and keep it clean? Ethan turned sharply. She stood in the doorway, tailored suit flawless, eyes sharp as razors. He hadn't heard her come in. Don't start, he muttered. Already started.
She walked in, heels silent on the marble. I had compliance dig through a transfer flagged by our legal team, Riverside Holdings. She cocked her head. Cute name. Whose diner did you just save? His jaw tightened. That's not your concern. Everything is my concern, she said smoothly. Especially when my CEO is throwing money into Brooklyn diners while we're preparing for an IPO. It's private, he snapped. There's no such thing as private when you're a public figure. Victoria leaned against the desk, crossing her arms. Let me guess, pretty waitress, big eyes, tragic story, and you think you can rewrite it. You don't know her, he said coldly. I don't need to, I know you. She tapped a manicured nail against the desk. You chase purity like a junkie chases a fix. But the second the press finds out Ethan Cole is bankrolling a waitress's failing diner, you know what headline runs, sleeping with the help. Ethan's fists clenched. I'm not sleeping with her. You? Yet, Victoria said with a smirk sharp enough to draw blood. But the story won't care about the details, and neither will the board. He turned away, staring at the skyline. The city glimed, indifferent. She deserves better. So do shareholders, Victoria retorted. Pick one. That night, the diner was half empty, rain still tapping at the windows. Ethan slipped inside quietly, no hoodie this time, just a plain navy coat. Maya looked up from wiping a table, surprise flickering before she masked it with professional calm. You again, she said, starting to look like a regular. Do regulars get a discount? He asked, sliding onto a stool. Depends how annoying they are. She poured coffee. So, what's a guy like you doing in a place like this twice in 24 hours? He hesitated, watching the steam rise. Maybe I like the company. Company comes with a pie special, she said dryly. No extra charge. He smiled faintly. But then her expression hardened, eyes sharp as she set the pot down. The bank manager came today, said the mortgage got bought out. His chest tightened. Yeah. Yeah, some faceless company, apparently, covered the debt just like that. She leaned forward. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you? He forced a casual shrug. I don't meddle in real estate. Her gaze lingered, suspicious. Funny, most people who buy up debt don't exactly do it to be kind. Maybe someone sees potential, he offered. In a greasy spoon diner with peeling vinyl booths, sure, sounds like a gold mine. Her tone was sharp, but there was hurt beneath it. I don't need saving. I didn't say you did, he said carefully. But you're looking at me like I'm something broken that needs fixing. Her voice cracked just slightly. Don't do that. He opened his mouth, closed it again. Words failed. She turned away, shoulders tight, pouring coffee for an empty table just to keep her hands moving. From the corner booth, the camera clicked. Neither of them noticed the man with the telephoto lens disguised as a tourist, but someone would notice soon enough. Later that night, Maya sat in her tiny apartment above the diner, flipping through bills. Leo sat cross-legged on the floor, sketching in his notebook, headphones muffling the world. His pencil moved fast, lines sharp, shaping a scene. A man in a suit handing a diner key to a woman with tired eyes. Maya glanced over. What's that, Leo? He didn't look up. What I saw today. Her stomach sank. You didn't. I saw him. Leo tapped the page. The man who came last night. He's different. He looks at you like you're not invisible. Maya's throat tightened. She touched the edge of the drawing, then pulled back as though it burned. Get some sleep, kiddo. One. When Leo disappeared into his room, Maya sat alone in the dim kitchen light, staring at the sketch. She wanted to rip it, deny it. Instead, she slid it under the stack of bills. Out of sight, not out of mind. In Manhattan, Victoria Held emailed Julian Ward. Attached, a blurry photo from the diner. Ethan and Maya, faces too close, steam rising between them like smoke. Her message was brief. Target identified, leverage incoming. The diner was buzzing more than usual on Friday night. A birthday group filled two booths, kids in paper crowns tossing fries at each other while exhausted parents laughed it off. The jukebox in the corner sputtered to life with a Bruce Springsteen track. For a fleeting moment, Maya let herself feel normal. Just a waitress hustling tables, stacking plates, joking with regulars. Her phone buzzed in her apron pocket. A text from Cassie, her oldest friend since high school. Need to talk, outside. Maya slipped out the back door into the alley. Cassie leaned against the brick wall, cigarette glowing in the dark, red nails flashing as she waved. Jesus, Cass, you look like trouble, Maya said. When have I not? Cassie grinned, smoke curling around her. She wore ripped jeans, leather jacket, the same devil-may-care look she perfected at 17, but her eyes flickered, restless. What's up? Maya asked. Cassie hesitated, then said, I saw you with him. Maya's chest tightened. With who? You know who? Cassie exhaled smoke. Ethan Cole, billionaire boy wonder. I saw the pictures too. Maya's blood went cold. Pictures. Paparazzi don't hang in Brooklyn by accident. Someone tipped them off. Cassie smirked, but it didn't reach her eyes. Guess who's already selling? Maya's mouth went dry. Cassie, what did you do? Cassie looked away. Relax, it's not like I gave them your diary, just a couple of shots. You two at the counter, him staring at you like you're the only girl in the world. They paid good money. Oh, how much? Maya's voice cracked. Cassie winced, finally meeting her gaze. $3,000. The alley seemed to shrink, walls pressing in. You sold me out for rent money. You think I wanted to? Cassie snapped. I'm drowning, Maya. My landlord is about to kick me out. And you, hell, you're already halfway out of here, sitting pretty with Mr. IPO. Maya's stomach churned. You don't know what you're talking about. I know what I saw. Kathy flicked ash to the ground. And so will the whole damn city tomorrow. By sunrise, the headlines hit. Billionaire CEO's secret diner girl. From pie to penthouse, meet Ethan Cole's Brooklyn flame. Grainy shots of Ethan leaning across the diner counter. Maya's eyes caught in a half-smile, coffee steam curling between them. They stared. One woman took a selfie outside with the diner's sign in the background, tagging it with the headline. Maya's hands shook as she poured coffee. She overheard a teenage boy mutter, "Gold digger." His friends laughed. By noon, a news van was parked across the street, camera pointed at the front door. Maya closed the blinds, heart hammering. When Ethan showed up, the diner went still. He wore dark sunglasses, but there was no hiding who he was. Paparazzi flashes popped as soon as the bell rang. Maya stormed over before he could sit. "What the hell did you do?" "I didn't do this," he said quickly, pulling off the glasses. His eyes were tired. "I swear, Maya. They've got photos from inside this place. You think random strangers just happen to be here with cameras?" Her voice cracked. "Someone sold me, Ethan, and now I look like a joke." His jaw tightened. "Who?" "My best friend," Maya whispered, choking on the words. $3,000, that's what I'm worth, apparently. Ethan swore under his breath. "I'll make this go away." "Don't you dare," she snapped. "If you throw money at this, it just proves them right, that I'm some girl you picked up to save." "Maya." "No," she shoved the coffee pot back onto the burner, hands trembling. "You don't get it. They're not laughing at you. They're laughing at me, and I can't fight that. I can't win." For a long moment, Ethan stood there, helpless in a way he'd never been in boardrooms. Finally, he said, "I'll find out who's pulling the strings." Her laugh was hollow. "Strings? Ethan, this is my life unraveling." That night, Maya sat in her apartment, blinds drawn tight. Leo sketched furiously in his notebook, pencil scratching like static. He finally held up the page, a girl under a spotlight, crowd pointing and laughing. Maya's throat tightened. A stat Leo. "But that's what I saw today." His voice was flat, factual. "They're hurting you." She pulled the notebook away, hugged him tight. "I'm okay," she whispered, though tears burned her eyes. "We'll be okay." Hmm? In Manhattan, Victoria Hay lounged in her office, scrolling through headlines. She forwarded one to Julian Ward with a single line. "Phase 1 successful." Julian replied almost instantly, "Next step, expose the mortgage." Victoria smiled, swirling the wine in her glass. The trap was closing, and Ethan Cole didn't even know it yet. The storm broke on a Tuesday morning. Not a storm of rain, but headlines, push notifications, and a cable news anchor's grin stretched too wide. Leaked documents. Billionaire Ethan Cole secretly owns girlfriend's diner. From Savior, the puppet master. The story ran everywhere, each outlet salivating over the twist. Ethan hadn't just been dating a waitress, he bought her life out from under her. At the diner, Maya's phone buzzed nonstop. She refused to look. Customers did it for her, scrolling, whispering, some not even subtle. By noon, 2 reporters were outside with microphones, shouting questions every time the door opened. Inside, Maya stood frozen, plate in her hand, knuckles white. She wanted to scream, to run, to rip the blinds down and vanish. "Tell me it's not true," she whispered when Ethan finally walked in, his face pale. He opened his mouth, closed it again. The silence was louder than any lie. "Oh my God," Maya laughed, sharp and bitter. "You actually did it. You bought my debt. You bought my diner." "I was trying to help." "Help?" Her voice rose raw. "You think owning me is helping? You think taking the one thing I built, the only thing keeping my family together, and sticking it in your portfolio is love?" "Maya." "No." She slammed the plate on the counter, shattering it. Every head in the diner turned. "You don't get to Miami right now. You lied. Every word, every coffee, every smile, you lied." He reached for her, desperate. "I didn't want you to lose it. I thought." "You thought you knew better, like every man who walks in here. You just had more zeros in your bank account." Her eyes burned, but no tears fell. "You didn't save me, Ethan. You caged me." The bell above the door jingled again. Victoria Hale stepped inside, heels clicking like gunshots. Sunglasses, trench coat, a predator in plain sight. She didn't even pretend subtlety. "Pictures don't lie," she said coolly, tossing a manila envelope onto the counter. "Neither do contracts." Maya stared. Ethan's name glared back at her from the documents, line after line confirming ownership of Riverside Holdings, LLC. Her knees almost buckled. "You really did it." Ethan's voice cracked. "Maya, please." Victoria smiled, shark bright. "Sweetheart, you should be flattered. Men like Ethan don't waste time buying diners for just anyone." Get out, Maya hissed. Gladly, Victoria slipped her glasses back on. But before I go, a little advice. Watch your back. The city loves a Cinderella story, but they love tearing it down even more. She left without waiting for a reply, the bell jingling like applause. Hours later, the diner was empty, chairs stacked, blinds drawn, silence heavy. Maya sat in a booth, staring at the papers spread across the table. Her fingers traced the ink over and over as if the truth might vanish if she rubbed hard enough. Ethan sat across from her, shoulders hunched like a man awaiting sentence. I thought I was protecting you, he said quietly. You thought you were protecting yourself, she snapped. From what? From watching me fail, from admitting you can't buy everything. That's not. Yes, it is, she shoved the papers toward him. You don't trust me to stand on my own. You don't trust anyone unless they're under your control. He flinched. That's not fair. Fair? Maya let out a hollow laugh. You want fair? My mom died in a car accident, and the guy who caused it walked away with a legal settlement. That wasn't fair either, but you don't see me buying people's lives to balance the scales. He looked like she'd slapped him. I didn't know. Of course you didn't ask. For a long time neither spoke. The city hummed faintly beyond the windows, indifferent. Finally Maya stood, gathering the papers. Take it back. What? Sell the mortgage, cancel it, I don't care how. I want you out of my life, out of this diner, out of every piece of me you think you own. Ethan rose, desperate. Maya, I love you. Love isn't ownership, she said, voice breaking. If you ever loved me, you'd let me go. She shoved the papers into his chest. He held them, stunned, as she walked away, disappearing into the kitchen. He didn't follow. That night Maya lay awake on the couch in her apartment, Leo asleep in his room. The city buzzed outside, headlights streaking across the ceiling. She clutched her mother's old recipe book to her chest, the pages stained with flour and coffee rings. For the first time, she wished the diner would just close. At least then the cage would disappear. Across the city, Victoria and Julian clinked glasses in a high-rise lounge, the skyline glittering behind them. Congratulations, Julian said. Phase 2 executed perfectly. Victoria smirked. Now we wait. When Ethan breaks, the company breaks with him. And the girl. She'll burn, Victoria said coldly. Collateral damage. Back in his penthouse, Ethan stared at the city from floor-to-ceiling windows. The papers Maya had shoved at him spread across the table. For once, money had bought nothing but loss. And in the quiet, he finally admitted to himself he might not be able to fix this. The morning after the mortgage scandal, Maya walked into the diner with heavy steps. She'd barely slept. Leo sat at the counter sketching in his notebook, headphones half on. He looked up, sensing her exhaustion, but didn't ask. He never needed to. His pencil spoke for him. The bell jingled. 2 men in suits entered, not customers. Their shoes shone too much, their eyes scanned too cold. Maya Rivera, the taller one, asked. Yes. He held up a badge, SEC Enforcement Division. We need to ask you a few questions. Her chest tightened. About what? About insider trading, the agent said. The word hit like a slap. What? The shorter man set a folder on the counter, flipping it open. Text messages, phone logs, patterns of communication between you and Ethan Cole. Maya's stomach dropped. Pages of printed call records, highlighted times, her phone buzzing at night, Ethan's name flashing. This isn't, she stammered, we never. You were receiving confidential information about Atlas ahead of public announcements. The agent under his control. Looks like a quid pro quo. I didn't even know, her voice broke. I didn't know about any of this until the papers exposed it. I never traded stocks in my life. I don't even own a brokerage account. The taller man was unmoved. You'll need representation. We'll be in touch with a subpoena. Leo tore off his headphones, panic flashing across his face. She didn't do anything. His voice cracked, sharp and too loud. Leo, Maya put a hand on his shoulder. It's okay, I'll handle it. The agents left, their suits vanishing into the city's noise. The diner felt like a courtroom now, every customer a silent jury. By afternoon, the story spread. From waitress to white-collar crime. Billionaire's girlfriend accused of insider trading. Maya couldn't walk outside without a camera shoved in her face. Did you leak Atlas's secrets? How much were you paid? The questions stabbed like knives. She ducked into alleys, pulling Leo along, praying no one recognized him. Back at the apartment, she collapsed onto the couch, head in her hands. "It's over," she whispered. Leo stood in the doorway, holding his sketchbook like a shield. "You didn't do anything wrong." "Nobody cares," she said bitterly. "In this city, headlines are the verdict." That night a knock rattled the door. Maya braced herself for more reporters. Instead, a woman stood there, sharp suit, briefcase in hand. Asian American, early 30s, eyes steady. "I'm Ava Chen," she said, "attorney pro bono. I heard about your case." Maya blinked. "From who?" "From your diner. I've been eating pie there for years. You always refill my coffee even when I look broke. Let me return the favor." Maya's throat tightened. "I can't pay you." "I didn't ask you to." Ava stepped inside. "Now tell me everything. Start with Ethan Cole." They sat at the kitchen table. Maya spilled the whole story, how she met Ethan, the diner, the mortgage, the betrayal. Her voice cracked when she mentioned her mom's accident, the scar on her arm. Ava listened without flinching, jotting notes. When Maya finished, silence hung between them. Finally, Ava said, "They're setting you up, classic smear. You're collateral damage in a bigger war." "War?" Maya asked. "Atlas's IPO is weeks away. Billions on the line. Someone wants Ethan vulnerable, and you're the easiest target." Maya laughed bitterly. "So I'm a pawn?" "No." Ava's voice was sharp. "Your evidence. If we can prove this was fabricated, you become the key to taking him down." Later that night, when Ava left, Maya stood by the window. Rain streaked the glass, blurring the city. She hugged herself, whispering into the dark, "Mom, I don't know if I'm strong enough." Her chest shook. For the first time in years, she cried, silent, broken sobs that bent her shoulders. Leo patted over, placing his sketchbook in her lap. On the page, a drawing of Maya holding a torch, standing against a storm. She looked at him, tears streaking her face. "What is this?" "You," he said simply. Maya traced the lines, her heart cracking open. In that fragile moment, she felt something stir, not victory, not even hope, but defiance. Across Manhattan, in a glass office tower, Victoria Hale poured herself whiskey. She watched cable news play the insider trading story, a satisfied smile curling her lips. Julian Ward appeared on the screen, giving a concerned investor interview. He spoke gravely about corporate ethics, while subtly painting Ethan as reckless. Victoria raised her glass to the screen. "Checkmate," she murmured. But Ethan was not finished. That same night, he sat in his penthouse, staring at a spread of contracts, photographs, and headlines. His empire was slipping, but his mind was locked on one face, Maya's, pale and broken under the weight of accusations she didn't deserve. He picked up his phone, dialing a private investigator. "I need everything on Julian Ward, everything, now." For the first time, Ethan's voice carried not guilt, not pleading, just fire. The conference room smelled like stale coffee and cheap toner. Piles of files were spread across the table, dim light flickering from a single overhead bulb. Ava Chun sat with her sleeves rolled up, hair tied back, eyes scanning line after line. Maya sat across from her, arms folded tight, as though bracing against the weight of the world. Leo sat in the corner, sketchbook on his lap, pencil tapping. His drawings had become more frantic lately. Storm clouds, cages, faceless men in suits. Tonight he drew a car under heavy rain. "This doesn't make sense," Maya muttered, tapping the folder of SEC allegations. "I never touched a stock. I never even said yes to a free rewards card at Target. And now I'm some criminal mastermind." Ava didn't look up. "That's the point. It doesn't have to make sense. It just has to look real." Leo tore out a page and slid it onto the table. A black SUV, headlights cutting through downpour, skidding across an intersection. Maya frowned. "Leo, why are you drawing this?" He didn't answer immediately. His pencil scratched another line, another raindrop. Finally he said, "I remember that night." Maya's heart stopped. "What night?" "The night, Mom." His voice faltered. He swallowed. "I saw the car, black SUV, rain on the windshield, the driver's face. I never told you because I wasn't sure, but I drew it so I wouldn't forget." Maya's hands shook as she picked up the drawing. The sketch was sharp, detailed, the grille, the curve of the hood, even a cracked headlight. Ava leaned forward. "Leo, can you remember anything else? A license plate, a mark, anything?" He flipped another page. This one showed the SUV parked under a streetlight, a blurry license plate number half visible. Ava grabbed her laptop, typing furiously. If this is right, maybe we can pull DMV records, cross-check with accident reports. Minutes ticked by, keys clacking. Finally, Ava froze, her eyes widened. Oh my God. Maya's stomach lurched. What? Ava turned the screen toward her. DMV records glowed back. Black Cadillac Escalade, registered to Victoria Hale. The air in the room collapsed. Maya's pulse roared in her ears. No. It's real, Ava cut in, voice shaking. Victoria's SUV was in the area that night. Police report says she claimed it was parked in her garage, but the timestamp on a traffic cam proves otherwise. She lied. She was there. Maya's vision blurred. Images crashed through her mind. Her mother's scream, the crunch of metal, the sirens. And now Victoria's face, cold and smiling, walking into her diner with contracts in hand. She whispered, "She killed my mom." Ava nodded grimly and covered it with money, settlements, lawyers. She thought it was buried forever. Maya's voice broke. All this time I thought it was fate, just bad luck in the rain, but it was her. Leo looked up, eyes wide. So she has to pay now, right? She has to. Maya clutched his hand. She will. Meanwhile, in her corner office high above Manhattan, Victoria Hale poured herself another glass of wine. She stared at the glowing skyline, unbothered by the chaos she'd unleashed. Julian Ward's voice crackled through the speakerphone. The girl's crumbling, Cole's cornered, IPO leverage is ours. Victoria smirked, as it should be. No one crosses me, and walks away. But even as she spoke, a tremor of unease flickered in her chest. A ghost she'd buried 5 years ago was clawing back to life. She brushed it off, sipping her wine. Keep the pressure on, they'll break. Back at the apartment, Maya sat at the table, staring at the sketch of the SUV. Her hands trembled as she traced the lines Leo had drawn. Ava's voice was steady, steel wrapped in silk. We have proof, Maya, not just for the insider trading smear, but for what happened to your mother. If this goes public, Victoria doesn't just lose Atlas, she loses everything. Maya wiped her eyes. Then let's burn her to the ground. Ava leaned forward, careful. She's dangerous. If she senses she'll come for you harder. She already came for me, Maya whispered. She took my mother. She took my name. She took my dignity in front of the whole city. I've got nothing left to lose. Leo's pencil tapped against paper, steady, relentless. You still have me, he said quietly. Her chest broke then, tears streaming hot and fast. She pulled him into her arms, sobbing against his shoulder. You're right, I still have you. Ava looked away, giving them privacy, but her jaw tightened. We're going to need strategy, court filings, media leaks of our own. If we play this right, Victoria Hale won't just fall. She'll never get up again. Hours later, when the apartment was dark, Maya stood alone at the window. The city glowed back at her, indifferent and cruel. She pressed her palm against the glass, whispering into the night. Mom, I finally know who did it, and I swear I won't let her win. In a quiet penthouse across the city, Ethan sat hunched over a whiskey glass, phone buzzing with messages from board members and lawyers. He ignored them all. His eyes were locked on the investigator's report spread across the table. The same conclusion, the same name. Victoria Hale. He whispered it like a curse, his hand trembling. For years he had trusted her, his right hand, his shield, his strategist, and now the truth cut deeper than betrayal. She hadn't just tried to destroy Maya, she had blood on her hands. And Ethan knew this wasn't just about saving Maya anymore. It was about justice for a woman he'd never met, whose daughter he now loved, whose death had been the first stone in a wall of lies. He picked up his phone, dialing Ava. His voice was steady, like steel forged in fire. It's time to take her down. The courthouse morning was a beast of cameras and umbrellas. Reporters clustered like gulls outside the stone steps, chasing every familiar face. The trial room smelled of polished wood, lemon sanitizer, and old paper. Inside, rows of seats filled with people whose lives were about to be interrupted by someone else's truths. Maya sat with Leo at her side, fingers laced with his. Ava had a small stack of papers and a calm that had been hard-won. The gallery buzzed. Ethan sat a few rows down, hands folded, jaw tight. Victoria Hale's arrival was a study in control, tailored suit, no tremor in her hand, a smile like a blade. Julian hovered near the back like a vulture waiting to be fed. The judge called the court to order. Cameras were barred from inside, but the hallway TVs blared the feed to a city hungry for spectacle. Ava was first, methodical as ever. She walked the jury through the chain of emails, the shell companies, the transfers that led from Riverside Holdings back to Ethan's accounts. She planted seeds, questions that would grow into a forest of guilt. Who authorized the transfers? Who benefited? Who had motive to smear a waitress? When all arrested, the prosecutor stood and brought forward the mother lode. Traffic cam footage, DMV records, emails quietly exchanged between Victoria and her fixer. The thumbnails on the screen were clinical: an SUV under a storm, an unmarked settlement check, and then one image that made the courtroom inhale, a frame showing a young woman in the rain, a collapsed figure by the curb. Maya felt her breath stop. Leo's pencil-scratched hands clutched her sleeve. Then it was time for Maya. She walked to the stand like someone walking into light. Cameras couldn't take her face here, but they would take it out into the world. The courtroom went silent. Even the judge seemed to lean in. "State your name for the record," the clerk said. "Maya Rivera," she said. Her voice was steadier than she felt. "Meza Rivera," the prosecutor began. "Tell the court what you remember about the night of your mother's accident." She closed her eyes for a second and found Leo's small hand hooked in hers. "We were coming home from my shift. It was raining. Mom was humming. She always hummed when she drove. I saw headlights. It happened so fast. There was a thud. I remember glass. I remember the smell of wet leather," and her throat tightened. "I remember someone running, a blur of someone in a dark coat. I remember my mother saying, 'Please,' and then the world spinning." A jurors watched her like they could measure paying. "Did you ever see the driver?" a prosecutor asked. "No," she whispered, but Leo drew it later. He remembered parts, and later, with help from an attorney, we matched records that put Victoria Hale's vehicle in the area that night. The courtroom shifted, a murmur like turning pages. Victoria's face didn't change, but a bead of sweat glinted at her temple. Ava stepped up, cross-referencing timelines, showing how Victoria had used settlement money to bury the accident, and how the same legal players appeared later in Ethan's portfolio maneuvers. Ava's closing passage to the jury was lean, honest, and venomous only by necessity. "This is not coincidence. This is a pattern of concealment where money buys silence and narratives are constructed to protect reputations." Then the moment everyone waited for, the chance to hear Ethan speak without a press release. Ethan walked to the stand like a condemned man, but he held his head high. He had rehearsed and unraveled 100 lines in the private dark of his penthouse. None had fit the shape of how he felt. On the stand, words landed differently, alive, clumsy, human. "State your name," the clerk said. "Ethan Cole," he answered. He took a breath. He looked at Maya before the microphones could find her, and the words came quick and awful and true. "I signed papers I didn't understand. I signed a settlement, a release. Years ago I allowed a mistake to be buried because I wanted to protect a company, a family name. I was told that was the way forward. I thought I was doing the right thing. I was wrong." The courtroom exhaled a collective soft sound. "And about the diner," the prosecutor pressed. He braced. "I purchased the mortgage through Riverside Holdings because I didn't want Maya to lose what her family built. I thought secrecy would keep her safe. I thought I was protecting her. I see now how that looked, how it hurt. I didn't come here to ask for forgiveness." He faced the jury squarely. "I came because if I stand here and ask for something, it is consequence. I will accept whatever the court deems fair." Maya's knees went weak for a second. The old fury twisted with a small, unwieldy relief. He had said the thing she'd been too furious to hear. He knew he'd been part of the harm. The defense tried to reel him back: technicalities, intent, corporate separation. But the footage, the emails, the stubborn facts Ova had pieced together were a net too tight to escape. Victoria's counsel pushed back with denials and a pile of attestation letters. Julian gave a statement to the press outside about powerful people under attack, performing the role of offended guardian like a professional. Then came Maya's cross-examination, Ava's careful maneuver to let truth be theater for the city. "Maya," Ava asked, voice low, "why did you refuse Ethan's help at first?" "He bought the mortgage without telling me," Maya said. "I felt like everything I worked for was taken. I felt small. I thought he wanted me grateful, indebted." Iva nodded. "Did you ever see Ethan as dangerous? Men like him, men like Victoria?" "Yes," Maya said, "but being dangerous and being helpful can get tangled. Her voice caught. I needed honesty, not ownership." "Well, hush." Then when the judge allowed it, Ava reached for the human, not the legal. "Maya, is there anything you would ask of him if this court finds Victoria liable?" Maya's eyes landed on Ethan, then slid to the courtroom door like she was imagining a porch light. I want him to ring my doorbell, she said. Not with lawyers, not with cameras, just ring my doorbell and say I'm sorry to my face. If he can do that, it's a start. It was a small line, domestic, absurdly specific, but it hit the room like a bell. Cameras outside picked it up, and within an hour, the phrase doorbell apology trended on social. People argued it into the night. Was it theatrical? Was it too small? Or was it the truest measure of accountability? The testimony continued, witnesses, depositions, expert analysis. With the center of gravity, it shifted. The jury didn't just see numbers now, they saw faces. Photos of Maya's mother, warm and alive, Leo's sketches, Ethan's admission. Victoria's carefully curated veneer began to chip. At the end of the day, the judge held a bench conference behind closed doors. When court reconvened, he instructed the jury on how to weigh corporate intent and personal responsibility. The jurors, anonymous and ordinary, nodded. They had a hard night ahead. As the courtroom emptied, reporters surged like a tide. Outside, Ethan didn't dodge them. He stood on the courthouse steps and said, loud enough for the cameras, I will do whatever it takes to make this right, legally and privately. Maya watched from the top of the stairs, Leo perched on the step below her. She felt tired down to her bones, but something in her chest had changed. The truth had been given a public stage, and it had landed messy and imperfect, and that was somehow what justice could look like. Ava walked up beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. We did what we had to do, she said. Maya looked at Ethan, then at the press swirl, then down at Leo. She swallowed and smiled, small and brittle but real. Doorbell, she murmured. Ethan heard it. He closed his eyes as if to brace himself for the first knock. The camera lights flashed. The city watched. The trial would not be over in a day, but in a room of polished wood and public truth, a thread had been pulled. The tapestry was loosening. The story finally was not just about the city watched. The trial would not be over in a day, but in a room of polished wood and public truth, a thread had been pulled. The tapestry was loosening. The story finally was not just about money and reputation. It was about the cost of silence and the small human things that measure atonement. Outside, the rain started again, washing the city slow and steady, as if it too wanted the truth to be clean. The city was buzzing with the aftershocks of the trial. Every news outlet replayed clips of Maya on the stand, her voice breaking as she spoke about her mother. Commentators argued over Ethan's doorbell apology line, while stock analysts debated Atlas's stability. For a moment, it seemed like truth might actually prevail. But Victoria Hale wasn't done. Maya closed the diner early that night. The blinds were drawn, the booths empty, the hum of the fridge the only sound. She sat at the counter with Leo sketching beside her, Ava reviewing motions on her laptop. It felt almost safe. Then Ava's phone lit up, her expression hardened. We've got a problem. Maya's stomach dropped. What kind of problem? Ava turned the screen. A headline blared across it. Exclusive video, Maya Rivera caught taking payoffs. The thumbnail showed Maya in a dim alley, a blurry man handing her an envelope. What the hell, Maya gasped, grabbing the phone. She hit play. The footage was grainy, but the figure looked like her, hair tied back, same diner uniform, reaching for an envelope thick with cash. Leo looked up, panic in his eyes. That's not you, he said quickly. No, it's not, Ava agreed. But it's a damn good fake, deepfake technology edited to hell, and they're blasting it everywhere. Maya's chest constricted. People will believe it. They'll believe I sold Ethan out. They already are, Ava's voice was grim. Hashtags are trending, diner girl exposed, gold digger too. This is Victoria's last card, and it's brutal. Maya's hands shook. She shoved the phone away. I can't do this anymore. I can't fight her in the whole world. Leo reached across the counter, grabbing her wrist. His voice was small but fierce. You're not alone. Tears pricked her eyes, but before she could respond, the diner door rattled. A shadow moved outside. Then the bell jingled. Ethan stepped in, rain plastering his hair, eyes blazing. I saw it, he said without preamble. The video, it's a lie. Maya's voice cracked. It doesn't matter if it's a lie. They'll never see me as anything but a con. And maybe they're right. I let you in. I let this happen. No, Ethan said firmly. This is on me. I should have seen it coming. Victoria will burn everything to save herself, but she's running out of fire. Ava snapped her laptop shut. We don't have time for speeches. She's setting up an accident. Both Maya and Ethan turned sharply. What? Maya asked. I got a tip from a contact, Ava said. Victoria arranged for a staged car crash meant to silence me before I can submit the traffic cam evidence. If she pulls it off, my testimony dies and so does our case. Maya's heart pounded when... Tonight, Ava said flatly, on my way home. Minutes later, the three of them were in Ethan's black sedan, tearing through wet Manhattan streets. Leo clutched his sketchbook in the back, silent but wide-eyed. Rain hammered the windshield, streetlights smeared into streaks. Ava's phone buzzed again, a blocked number, a single text, last warning. Jesus, Maya whispered, she's not bluffing. They turned onto 10th Avenue and saw it, a black SUV idling at the curb, headlights off. The same make, the same color Leo had drawn over and over. The SUV lurched forward, swerving toward Ava's side of the car. Hold on, Ethan shouted, wrenching the wheel. Tires screeched, horn blared. The SUV clipped their rear bumper, metal grinding, sparks flying. For a heartbeat, Maya thought they'd flip. But Ethan steadied the car, swerving them onto a side street. The SUV roared past, disappearing into the rain. Silence filled the car, broken only by Maya's ragged breathing. She's trying to kill us, she whispered, just like she killed my mom. Ethan's knuckles were white on the wheel. Not this time. We've got enough now. Attempted murder doesn't bury easy. Ava's voice was steady, steel beneath fear. Then we end it. Tomorrow we file everything. Every tape, every record, every sketch Leo ever made. We don't just defend ourselves. We go for her throat. Maya turned, seeing Leo's pale face in the back seat. She reached back, squeezing his hand. We're going to finish this, for Mom, for all of us. Across town, Victoria Hale poured herself another glass of wine, ignoring the storm outside. She watched the news replay the fake video, commentators dissecting Maya's supposed corruption. Julian Ward's voice came through her speakerphone. The girl's finished. By morning, no one will touch her story. Victoria smiled thinly. Good, and by the time Ethan realizes what he's lost, Atlas will be mine. But in the corner of her screen, a news ticker scrolled. Unconfirmed reports of attempted collision near 10th Avenue involving vehicles tied to Atlas insiders. Her hand froze on the glass. For the first time, fear cracked her mask. Back in the car, Ethan pulled over, chest heaving. Rain lashed the windshield, but inside the car a different storm raged. Grief, rage, defiance. Maya whispered, she almost took you. She almost took Ava. She almost took Leo. She didn't, Ethan said, and she won't. Tomorrow we bury our lies. Maya turned to him, eyes burning. If she wants a war, then let's finish it. Oh, the city lights blurred through the storm, but inside that car something shifted. For the first time since this nightmare began, Maya didn't feel hunted. She felt ready to fight. The courthouse was electric. Crowds spilled over the marble steps, umbrellas bobbing in the drizzle as cameras aimed like rifles. This was no longer just a trial. It was theater, and the city was the audience. Inside, the jury filed in, eyes heavy with the weight of truth. Maya sat stiff beside Ava, Leo's hand folded into hers. Ethan waited a few rows back, his face pale but steady. Across the aisle, Victoria Hale sat in her immaculate suit, the last mask she had left. The judge's gavel cracked, silence fell. The foreman stood, verdict in hand, his voice carried across the room. On the charge of obstruction of justice, guilty. On the charge of reckless endangerment, guilty. On the charge of vehicular manslaughter, guilty. The courtroom erupted in gasps, murmurs, shouts. Maya's chest caved as tears blurred her vision. She clutched Leo against her, his arms locking around her waist. Ava exhaled sharply, the faintest smile breaking through her steel composure. Victoria didn't move. For a moment she seemed carved from stone. Then the bailiff took her by the arm. Cameras clicked furiously. She finally snapped. I built Atlas, she screamed, her voice ragged. He was nothing without me. You think this little girl won? You think this waitress beat me? The gallery recoiled. Reporters scribbled like mad. The image was perfect, the queen stripped of her crown, shrieking as she was dragged away in cuffs. Maya watched, heart pounding, but she didn't gloat. She only whispered, for Mom. Outside, the rain had turned from drizzle to steady sheets. Reporters clustered under awnings, microphones shoved at anyone emerging from the courthouse. Ethan walked out first. He raised his hands, asking for silence. For once, the crowd gave it. His voice carried over the storm. I failed, he began. I let fear and greed decide for me. I thought power meant control, but today the truth stood taller than money. Maya Rivera fought for it when I couldn't. He paused, rain dripping from his hair, eyes burning with something raw. So here's my final act as CEO of Atlas. Effective immediately, I resign. Every share I hold, every dollar I gain from silence will go into a foundation named after Rosa Rivera, the woman whose life was stolen. That foundation will fight for victims who never had a voice. A stunned hush fell, then as the words sank in, applause swelled, rippling across the crowd. Cameras flashed brighter, some reporters even clapped. Maya froze in the doorway, Leo at her side, as the sound washed over them. Ethan had just detonated the life he'd built for her mother, for the truth. That night, the diner glowed like a beacon. Neighbors packed the booths, flowers covering the counter, strangers leaving notes taped to the window. We believe you. We're proud of you. Leo sketched furiously at the end of the counter, capturing everything. The laughter, the steam rising from mugs, the way Maya's tired face still managed to shine. For a few hours, it felt like life again. When the last customer left, Maya stayed behind to wipe down the counter. Her hands shook from exhaustion, but her chest felt lighter than it had in years. Then came the knock. Not the bell, not reporters, a simple human knock. Maya froze, her pulse raced. She crossed the diner slowly, heart hammering, and opened the door. Ethan stood there drenched. The rain poured hard, plastering his hair to his forehead, soaking his clothes. He didn't hold an umbrella, didn't have a lawyer at his side, just him. I don't deserve it, he said, voice rough, almost drowned by the storm. But I promised. Doorbell apology. Maya's breath hitched. Tears welled and spilled, hot against the cool rain misting in. You're an idiot, she whispered. I know, he swallowed. I'm sorry. Not as a CEO, not as a man who thought he could fix everything with money. Just me, Ethan, I'm sorry. Her throat burned. She wanted to scream, to shove him back into the rain. Instead, she stepped forward. Her arms wrapped around him and his around her, and for a moment, the storm outside felt small compared to the one inside her chest, finally breaking open. Leo peeked from the counter, a faint smile tugging his lips. He flipped his sketchbook open, pencil racing. On the page, lines took shape. His sister and Ethan locked in the doorway, rain cascading around them, light from the diner spilling onto the street like a blessing. Weeks later, headlines told the rest. Victoria Hale sentenced to decades in prison. Julian Ward disgraced, Atlas stabilizing under new leadership. Ethan Cole, once the golden billionaire, now the head of the Rosa Rivera Foundation, funding shelters and scholarships instead of skyscrapers. But in Brooklyn, the world was quieter. The diner buzzed with ordinary life, coffee poured, pie cooled, laughter echoed. Sometimes Maya would pause behind the counter, watching Leo sketch or Ethan refill a customer's cup like he'd done it all his life, and she'd feel the weight lift a little more. On rainy nights, she would stand by the window, hand pressed to the glass, and whisper, "Mom, we made it." And in the sound of the bell above the diner door, in the warmth of her brother's laughter, in the steady presence of the man who had learned to knock instead of break in, Maya finally felt free.